Morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Homebuyers Report by Groundsure. My name is Rose DeVries and I'm the Marketing Manager here at InfoTrack. I'm delighted today to be joined by Andy Crawshaw from Groundsure. So Andy has been with Groundsure for 3 years and has been in the property industry for 15 and is well versed in providing these educational seminars. Today's subject is going to look at the comprehensive Homebuyers Report from Groundsure and the great benefits that it can offer your clients. So throughout this morning, which we anticipate to take no longer than around half an hour, I'd just like to draw your attention to the question box. Type anything you have in there and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So Andy, many thanks for your time today. I'll pass control over to you and progress with the presentation. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Rose, and good morning, everyone. As I said, I'll be going through our Homebuyers Report and just hopefully giving you guys some ideas on how it will help you in terms of saving you a bit of time and also giving you some ideas on some of the information it gives just so that you can pass this information on to your clients and how we actually produce this report, so it gives you a better understanding of actually what goes into it and the data that's involved. So just as we go into this, just to give you an idea of some of the USPs that we have here at Groundsure, we have our office down here in Brighton. Everything is on one floor in one office. We don't outsource anything, so our customer services, our consultants, our environmental consultants, we've got about 35 of them at the moment, our IT, our marketing, everything is on the same floor. So we like to think it makes our customer services just a bit better if you do have any issues when somebody is only about 15 feet away to actually answer any problems. We have our historical land use database, which I will go into in a couple of slides' time. And we have the ability to provide expertise on any contentious matter. So any stage of a transaction, our consultants are willing to get involved. So if you've got any issues with any lenders, for example, then we're happy to have conversations with them to try and resolve anything. We have our £10 million property indemnity insurance, and one of the biggest things for us as well is that on the Homebuyers Report, especially after page 2, we have our direct telephone number. So if any of your clients have any questions whatsoever, instead of them coming to you, for you to then go to people like InfoTrack to come to us and then go through that again, you can actually get the purchaser to call our consultants themselves, and we're happy to answer any questions that they might have on any of the reports. So one other thing that we like to shout about here is just that the quality of our historical mapping, and our historical mapping plays a large part in exactly what we do. So as you can see on the right hand side is how we scanned it in at 500 dots per inch, and then our competition on the left hand side. And what this means is that we get more accurate outcomes, which can have a significant bearing on the number of reports needing further review by environmental consultants, and it can then reduce the time needed to return the report. So quicker reports, and also it gives you a better guidance and a better idea of what the issues are associated with the site. So here, for example, we can write guidance and also give further insight on it based on it being a sheet metal works. And on the left hand side you can basically make out it's a works, and that's pretty much it. So it just makes the turnaround time a bit quicker and gives a more informed opinion on what the issues might be. So just going through the Homebuyers Report, just to give you a bit of information on it, we have a 24-hour turnaround time on it. Basically, if there are no issues with the report, it's a bit of an automated service. So if it goes to our system, we don't pick up any issues, you should have it back within the hour. We have the lowest further assessment rate on the market, so 97% of these reports pass first time. Of the remaining 3%, 2% will go to our environmental consultants to look over and see if there are any issues, and if not, they will be passed back. And it's 1% of our reports are basically in need of further assessment. I will go through exactly what we have, but you can see this is the front page where we have contaminated land. We have full flood information in this report, which I'll go into a bit later. We also look at the ground stability of an area, and we also do a screening for energy. One of the things that people like a lot about this the front page of this report is that for the flood information we have the insurability index on the front page, so you don't have to sift through the report to actually look and see how insurable the property is. So just going through the basic issues of what we look at. I won't try and teach you guys to suck eggs, but I'll just try and give you some information on exactly what we look at in a report. Our contaminated land model. So what we do is we actually have a look at these three issues and see if all three are present for us to say that there might be something that we need to look into further. So the contaminant could be something like a gas or chemical works, landfill sites, petrol filling stations, things like anything that can cause any sort of land contamination. The receptor can be site users, residential gardens and occupants, watercourses or sites of natural beauty, and the pathway is basically any way to get between the two. So dust inhalation or ingestion, dermal contact, and things like gas migration from landfill sites as well. So we'll have a look for all these three things. If one of them is missing, we'll pretty much pass the report straight away. But if all three things are present, then we will say that the report is in need of further assessment, and we'll need further information to actually look into what the issues might be. Now, I mentioned our historical land use database. This is possibly our most vital asset here at Groundsure. So what it is we scanned and digitised about 1.5 million historical maps around about 15 years ago. And when we scanned in and digitised these historical maps, we looked for any features that might be an issue in terms of contaminated land. So things I mentioned before, like gas and chemical works or petrol filling stations. And if we found any of these features on the maps, what we did is we actually polygonized them straight away. So we automatically have this database of around 27,000 features that as soon as you put an address in, we know exactly what's around there and we know what the environmental risk is. And we also didn't just band around the polygon to give a broad risk. So, for example, if we have a railway station, we don't just polygonize a railway station and say this is the risk associated with it. We will polygonize the goods yard. We will polygonize the office block that's associated with it. We will polygonize the sidings that might have been used for landfill, and things like if it's got a refueling shed. Now what that means is it just gives you a better opinion and stops reports coming back in need of further assessment. Because, for example, if you're 10 metres away from the railway station and we've polygonized it in a broad spectrum as just a railway station, we will say that there's an issue because of the refueling shed. Whereas what we've done is if the property is 200 metres away from the refueling shed but 10 metres away from the railway station, it won't come back as in need of further assessment because the actual issue in terms of contaminated land is 200 metres away instead of being 10 metres away. I hope that makes sense. It's easier for me if I'm there in person to draw you a little picture, but if you do have any further questions, like Rose says, please feel free to get in touch and give us a shout. So one other thing that we look at that others don't is military sites. This example is Chatham Docks down in Kent, and this came about because we did a CPD with the people at Red Row Homes, and they mentioned that not far away from their office down there was this site, and it was actually used for nuclear submarines during World War II. So we had a look into it, and it turns out that some of the nuclear waste was just got rid of basically by digging a hole, throwing it in and putting bunding around it so that it kind of masks exactly what's there. And it just gives you an idea of how we use our historical mapping as well. So you've got the map on the left is from 1933, the one in the middle from 38, and the one on the right hand side is 1955. Now as you can see with the map on the right hand side, every mention of it being a military site has absolutely vanished, and this is because during the war the government tell ordnance survey to actually remove any mention of it being a military site, obviously so that people can't find out where it is, and then do things about it. So we look back against all these historical maps to see what the issues might be, and obviously if this is something to do with military site and we have a look into the pollutants that might be an issue with it, looking back through military records, then we will highlight that in the reports as well for you. So if a property does, or a report does come back in need of further assessment, there are some things that we advise that you do, and we'll always put this advice and guidance in our reports. But we do say to cross-reference your other documents to find the quickest and easiest solution for your clients. So how old is the property? This will help identify if planning could be used, mainly for properties after 1985, but more common in recent years. Is it a new build? Will it will then more than likely have an HBC policy and or have been remediated under planning. And then if you do have to get in touch with the council, again, we will actually highlight the questions to ask. Things like, are the council aware of the former land use of the site? What are their intentions with regards to Part 2A? Do they intend to investigate? What is the priority level of the site? Is it high, medium or low? How many sites do they have on the inspection list? This will give us an idea of exactly when they're going to get round to having a look. How long do they think it will actually take to investigate all the prior sites? And once we've got this information back and we can have a look at it, they might come back and say, it's not a priority, we don't think there's any issues at the site. And once we have that information, we can actually pass the report with a caveat based on the information we get back from the council. And again, I mentioned our historical land use database. One thing that we do is, if you get some information from the council, you get an NHBC certificate. So if it's a new build, for example, and you're dealing with one plot on a new development, we will get this NHBC policy and we will attach it to that whole development. So if you're ever dealing with another property on that one specific development, we will pass the report straight away because we already have the NHBC policy associated with the whole development. One other thing we offer here at Groundsure is contaminated land insurance. So if you have a transaction going through, for example, that you need a quick turnaround on, and it turns out that there could be an issue in terms of contaminated land, we offer this insurance policy for your clients. And what this does is it basically insures the property itself for around about 15 years. So if, say, somebody's looking to move into a property and move out in 5 years' time, then they won't have any issues with the environmental aspect of it because the property will be insured for a further 10 years. It ranges in price from about 100 to 500 quid. It completely depends on the size of the property and also the amount that is looking to be charged in the transaction. If you do have any questions, feel free to give the guys at InfoTrack a call or give us a call, and we'll be happy to go through the information associated with it. So also in terms of flood data, I mentioned that we offer, in the Homebuyers Report, we offer full flood information. There is no need to get a further flood report. So hopefully that saves a lot of time with clicking an extra button, ordering an extra report, getting in touch with your client to make sure they're happy, paying the extra 25 quid or whatever it might be. And to give you some idea of the risks associated with flooding at the moment. So there's about 5.2 million properties that are at risk of flooding, 2.8 from surface water flooding alone. And the biggest one for me is the number on the right hand side. So the cost of flooding is on average £28,000 per property that has been flooded, and it's a huge amount. And if anybody has ever been through a flood in their property, they will know exactly how horrible and how time-consuming and how soul-destroying it can be, to be honest. So there's, on top of this, there's about 55% of water treatment plants are at risk. This is important because it can affect properties that are not flooded themselves, so the water can get contaminated and they have to cut off the clean water supply. There's around 2,300 schools at risk of flooding, and the effects of flooding and managing flood risk is costing us around £2.5 billion a year at the moment. So this is the difference in the information that we show in our Homebuyers Report. I mentioned that it has the full flood information in there. So as you can see on the left, it doesn't just have the free data of the river and coastal flooding data. We have the surface water data that you can see on the right hand side, and you can see the difference here. So if you did just go for the free data and it highlights and a property flooded in any of the one on the right hand side where it's the red, the yellows and the green aspects, then people would be asking questions of why they weren't highlighted to the risk. So again, for the price, it absolutely covers everything to do with flood, and it doesn't just give you the data, it gives you the professional opinion associated with it as well. One thing that we put in our reports from May this year is proposed flood defences. So even if the conversations are happening and before the actual planning application has gone in, we will highlight that this is something that is going to happen in the future and actually associate it with a site. And hopefully that should help with pushing transactions through, and also help with the insurance aspect of the property as well. And it just gives that further further back into a property transaction that everything's going to be safe and well. And in terms of the flood insurance, I'm sure you all saw this, but Flood Re came out in April last year. It was bandied around for quite a while. It was supposed to come out in the summer before, and then November of 2015, and they actually signed it off in April 2016. And basically what they have done is the insurance industry and the government have come together to put together this flood reinsurance fund and make flood insurance affordable for properties that are at high risk of flooding. So it's a great scheme. It's a great idea. There are a lot of exclusions that annoyed quite a lot of people. So basically, if you are a freehold residential property, then you can get it. Pretty much anything else isn't available to actually get this flood re scheme. So any commercial property, any leasehold, any buy-to-let, anything along those lines, any property built after 2009 isn't available to actually get this flood reinsurance. But they are hoping that it makes the insurance industry a bit more competitive and just makes flood insurance easier to get hold of if you are at high risk of flooding, or the property that you're looking to buy is anyway. Now, on the back of this, so with this flood reinsurance, what we have done is we are the only environmental company to actually include this information in our reports. What we will say is, if the property does come back at high risk of flooding, we will say whether that property specifically has been seeded into the flood re scheme. So not the postcode, not the street, the property specifically. If it has been put into the flood re scheme, we will let you know about it on our overall insurability index page, which can be found in every report. So the third main thing that we look for in our report, and this is just in terms of covering your due diligence and covering your back in one report as opposed to buying multiple, is ground stability. And in terms of subsidence, I mean, this is what we're looking at in terms of what occurs every year. So there's about 30 to 40,000 insurance claims every year. It costs around about 300 million every year to the insurance industry, and when we say an extreme year, it can rise to £1 billion. That's basically a year where a year that is extremely wet or extremely dry. Subsidence can have many causes, from man-made issues such as mining to those based on the underlying geology of an area as well. So natural ground subsidence refers to the upward, lateral or downward movement of the ground that can be caused by a range of natural geological hazards. So these movements are typically in the order of centimetres, but in certain exceptional circumstances they can be much larger. And it's those ones that you'll see with the attention-grabbing images on the news and things like that. So in terms of natural sources, what's on the screens is exactly what we'll look for in our report, and highlight any issues that might crop up, and actually give you the guidance that you need to look at in terms of passing the information on to a surveyor. So clay soils, dissolution features and slope instability are the three main ones that occur in the UK. Everything else that's on the screen can be an issue, but we very, very rarely see it. And all this information is what's contained in the British Geological Survey GeoShore database. Now the biggest issue that we have is clay soils. So according to estimates by Direct Line, approximately 75% of all subsidence claims relate to shrink swell of clay soils. They estimate that it has cost the economy something like £3 billion over the last 10 years, making it the most damaging geohazard in Britain today. And according to the Association of British Insurers, as many as 1 in 5 homes in England and Wales are likely to be damaged by ground that swells when it gets wet and shrinks when it dries out. So this is the biggest thing, and as you can see, it's something that covers a large area of the country, and it's basically either clay soils, and if you're not in an area that's affected by clay soils, then you are in an area that could be affected by some form of mining. So it just gives you an idea of what the risks are. And then man-made subsidence we also look for in our report. We have some 5,000 years of historic mining in the UK. So coal mining is another large source of subsidence claims, and these are generally dealt with outside the insurance industry by the Coal Authority. And they have apparently dealt with over 500,000 claims in the last 30 years. I've been lucky enough to actually go to the Coal Authority, and they have a huge warehouse of paper mining maps which they inspect and try to make sense of. The early maps in some cases are really quite inaccurate. So if you think that they're looking at maps from the 1600s, and although they might be there or thereabouts, they might have a mine edit or an actual mine entrance that is 40 meters away from where it says on the map. So trying to make sense of it and trying to actually highlight where these risks are and properly map them is something that they work tirelessly to do and work very well to do. So they are still trying to discover where these are. And here at Groundsure we use our historical mapping dating back to 1842, which is when Ordnance Survey Map Edition 1 was set. So it just hopefully makes it that bit more accurate as well. So I do wish them the best of luck over there. It is a tireless task that they are undertaking. And then just to give you an idea of why we look for ground subsidence issues, this is from October 2015, and you might have seen it in the news, this huge sinkhole opening up in St Albans. Now, what we did is we actually had a look at the researched into the area and researched into the site. And you can see in the bottom right hand corner is a map from 1900, and it shows this huge clay pit, and it used to be the London Brickworks that used this clay pit. Now what they do is, after they have extracted all the clay, they infill this land with basically any old rubbish they can get their hands on, and there'll be a lot of waste that used to be at the site as well. And one of the things that they will fill it in with is trees. Now obviously after 70, 80, 90 years, trees will start to disintegrate, and then it's usually after heavy rainfall, it will come down, there's nothing underneath the ground, and we see these sorts of collapses. So it does highlight that these properties were built in around the 1970s. There were less stringent building controls, there wasn't the need for environmental reports, and although we're pretty sure that they must have known about this, they didn't need to do anything about it. So it just highlights the importance and also how we can highlight any issues in our environmental reports. Now, to give you an idea of what we did not so long ago, we did an update on HS2, and if you're anywhere between London and Leeds, you will have seen that there is a new route proposal between Birmingham and Leeds for HS2. So on your screens now you can see the proposed route initially was the orange line, and now they're wanting to change it to the purple line. And this announcement came on the 7th of July last year, and this was following a publication of a report by David Higgins. So these trains are changing in the report, and it's caused quite a bit of uproar because there's people who are on the left-hand side have actually lost value in their properties because they thought HS2 was going to go around, so now they're having to look again. They might have sold up and moved on. They're hoping that this can reduce the cost of the project by about £1 billion, and hopefully it just goes through a more rural route. So there isn't that much more work to do in terms of buying up land and buying up homes and actually demolishing homes and relocating and compensation packages and things like that. So it is something that they're looking to do, and we're just waiting for them to actually sign off on exactly what's happening. So what we have done is this new proposed route has been included within our search alerts. So on the ordering platform that you use for InfoTrack, this will actually highlight whether a property is in distance of the old route and also the new route as well, give you the information that is associated with it, let you know about the compensation packages, and actually give you all the details of what the next steps might be and guidance for your client as well. And then in terms of exactly what might happen, now this is an estate just, well, in Mexborough, which isn't a million miles away from Doncaster. Now, this is the Shimmer estate, and they have been told that some or all of their land may be required if these plans are approved, which we're thinking we'll go through quite shortly. The housing developer is Strata, and they said that they were shocked by the news, as you can imagine, and they were still trying to digest the information on how the changes affected people living on the estate, part of which is actually still being built. There's about 400 residents on this housing estate, and they received the handheld letters that you can see on your screen now, just informing them that the government would need to require some or all of their land. And this £30 million estate of 212 homes, it's been under construction since 2011, and they were hoping it should be finished around June this year. So 166 houses have been sold already and are occupied. There's 46 yet to be finished, and 23 of those have been reserved by buyers. As you can imagine, a lot of people aren't very happy about it. So it's just something that gives you an idea of what can happen and what the issues might be. So one other thing that we did in May this year with the Homebuyers Report is we put an energy screening on the front page, as I showed you earlier. And this energy screening will take you to section 7 of the report, where we will answer these questions. Now, this is quite helpful if, for example, it highlights that there's an issue and you go to section 7 and it says that there is a proposed solar farm going up. You might, or your client might not be that bothered about that. And therefore you've done your duty, you've highlighted it to the client, and they've decided not to go any further. But if it was a fracking site or proposed fracking site or existing that was going in somewhere within the vicinity of the property, then they might be obliged to actually get a further energy report and look into what the exact details might be and how that might affect the property as well. Now, fracking is one of the things that is quite a big issue at the moment. It's something that a lot of people are worried about and are talking about. You can see where the licensed blocks are at the moment and where this might be affecting places. My parents still live up in Wakefield in West Yorkshire, and to give you an idea, they bought their new property about 2 years ago, and it's just come out, or it's been known that there have been 2 fracking licenses given either side of their property, and they had absolutely no idea about it. Now, this could knock about 20% off the value of their property, and in terms of possible implications, there's some on your screen now. So they weren't aware, and I'm sure that they would have appreciated when they were buying the property somebody actually highlighting exactly what the issues might be, and actually highlighting what is going on around the area as well. So we often get asked what are the main implications and what people most worried about in terms of fracking, and it's not one thing, it's these things that are on your screen now. But the issue might be that people just don't know what's going to happen. Until we actually get into the process and go through it, we like to think that the government have taken things on board that have happened in America and are actually going to learn from their mistakes and take the good things from them. But until we actually get down to it, we're not sure. There are things in terms of the water usage. Only fresh water can be used, so is that going to have an issue in terms of having a hosepipe ban in the winter as well as the summer? The industrialisation of the countryside, these sites are always in very rural areas, so will it be an issue in terms of the roads and the infrastructure being capable of accepting these lorries that are going to carry these thousands of gallons of chemicals and water to the site? But it is something just to be aware of. And also in the report we can actually pass on some guidance to your clients and try to put their minds at ease a bit as well. But one thing that they should be wary of, especially in terms of fracking, is in January 2015 the government came together and actually put together a new infrastructure bill. Now, the biggest thing about this infrastructure bill is they have removed the trespass laws. So basically in terms of fracking, in normal areas, if a gas or oil company drills 300 metres down, they can drill across absolutely anywhere they want. If they are looking at areas of natural beauty, national parks, source water protection zones, as long as they drill 1,200 metres down, they can drill across underneath these as well. They don't have to give specific consultation to individual properties. They just have to do a wider consultation in the local paper, the local parish, and things like that. So that has caused quite a stir, and it just makes people a bit worried that this drilling is going to go underneath their houses, and they're not going to be aware of it. Now what we'll show you on the actual report is, if you do get the energy report, is we'll show you the fracking licenses here, the ones that have been granted in red, and the ones that are up for grabs in yellow. And we'll also go through things like wind and solar farms, we'll go through power stations and nuclear establishments, and any major energy infrastructure that's associated with a site as well. And then should you want to buy the full report, we do have 2 reports available. These are shown on your screen excluding VAT. We do an energy report, and we also do a combined HS2 and energy report as well. If you do have any questions about these, please feel free to get in touch with the guys at InfoTrack, and they'll be able to give you more information. I'll pass you back to Rose now, but thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much for that, Andy. Now, you're using InfoTrack, so we provide the Groundsure Home Buyers Report, and if you'd like this added to your pack, then please just let your account manager know. I'll send through the slides this afternoon, and if you require a certificate of attendance, then just let me know by return email, it's fine. There'll also be a short survey when you log out today, and we'd really appreciate your input as it helps us to define and tailor the future content. And please, as always, feel free to contact me. My email is on the screen and my number, so yeah, please let me know if you've got any questions. So thanks for your time today, and we look forward to welcoming you to another webinar in the future. Thanks.